Well, welcome to this morning's devotional, and we are starting Second Samuel. And just another little reminder that there's no real reason to take these books particularly separate from each other. Second Samuel 1 continues on very much from where First Samuel left off. And so here we see David finding out of the death of Saul. And we just saw that Saul, overcome, fell on his sword with his sons. And so a man returns with torn clothes, and he had put dirt on his head to show that he was mourning, and he falls before David. And David questions him, and he says that he escaped and wants to know how the battle went, and tells him of how the army fled and many of the men are dead, and that will overcome. Saul and his son Jonathan fell on their swords. He also, when interrogated further, says he mentioned to happen upon the mount where Saul had died. And so the man claims that he is a foreigner living in Israel. A foreigner happens to be from a battle that David was just fighting. And the Amalekite man says that when he found Saul dying, he pleaded to be finished, and so he finished him off, that he put him out of his misery. David mourns and tears his clothes and puts the man to death, that he confessed to killing the Lord's anointed one. David then composes a song for Saul and Jonathan with some fairly powerful words claiming how strong and valiant they were, about how Israel ought to weep for the good that they had done, how the land where they died should produce life no longer. Oh, how the mighty hero have fallen. A line. These people that he loved, dead. And so in this one little passage, we see the Amalekite man telling a story, and we also see a song written, and we see an account given. A little footnote, the way that I was taught this passage was under the inference that the man was lying. I was reading a couple commentaries, and they were suggesting that the man was telling a very good account of what had happened. But in the end of First Samuel, Saul dies, and then when the armor bearer sees that he is dead, the armor bearer kills himself as well. And so this account of finding him later, so the way I learned it was that this man was likely going over the battlefield after it was done, taking from the dead what he could, and that he found a king dead, and he knew that David was next in line, and that the man most likely assumed that coming to him with the death of Saul with these gifts would have been advantageous to him. Now, again, a lot of that would be inferred, but that's the way that I had learned it, and so I was interested to see that some people thought that he truly did just happen upon Saul somehow still alive, from a man who had no real accounting of to why he was there and how he knew and why he was alone. So I'll just encourage you to kind of read it both ways and see what you hear there. But so to take note of the heart of David here. mourning for Jonathan, a person he loved so dearly, gone. A kinship he probably would never feel again, taken from him. The anointed one of Israel. How many times did David support God's choice, support God's man, support the leader of God's nation? And here we see that he does not gloat, he does not reprieve himself of the burden that this relationship was. But he mourns, and he avenges, and he chooses God and God's people over his own ambition here. He feels for them. He feels the loss. He is thankful for what they did for the country. And is our heart so set on God and his kingdom that when people who are even so against us meet poor ends, that we would feel sorrow, that we would be able to see what they've done and who they were for the kingdom and be saddened by that? Are we able to take up from that loss, compose a song, feel, cry, mourn, weep, tear our clothing, and then pick up from where they left off, leading for that same God? Lord, I pray that you would continue to challenge our hearts and our softness towards you and our dedication towards you and our minds and souls, that we would be drawn more towards you than us. Lord, that we would, even when in contention with your people, know that they are your people, your children, your leaders. And so, Lord, I just pray that we would choose to be on your side once again. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today, would you know his peace.